All right, it is time for a tag video. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm super excited to be here today and to share with you this video. This is going to be the in or out tag. I saw this over at Read Becca's channel, and the original was created by Rick McDonald. This has a lot of 26 questions. I'm going to try not to be too chatty on every question. Maybe I'll have to be pick and choosy on that. But I didn't prepare, so I have no idea what the truth of that is. So it is a bunch of questions about sort of how I think what you like or don't like in books. Are you in or are you out? So let's see what the answers are. Okay, so here we go. First prompt is reading the last page. I am out. I never read the last page of a book. I do understand this from the perspective of if you're reading something, especially as a comfort read, if you want to be confident in the resolution and not go through the whole book. But for me, I'm so anti-spoiler that I'm out. I never have done that. I never plan on doing that. But I do understand why someone would. Number 2, enemies to lovers. Okay, so I also need like a pass kind of situation. I actually don't know if I like this. I think it can provide instant chemistry for sure, but I don't know if I love it. So I am going to say that I don't know. I'm sorry, that sucks. Number 3, dream sequences. Are you in or are you out? I think this one depends on context. If it's urban fantasy or fantasy, or science fiction even, you could have like a robot dream sequence. I have no idea if that's right. If it makes sense in terms of the context of the book, sure, then I would be in. If there is nothing else in the book ever that has anything, and I'm not saying dreams are fantasy, I'm saying that if there's no other element that is unrealistic in the book, then I'm out, because I think it's not a great way to incorporate something that could just be sort of for shock value. But if it's like urban fantasy and someone's like can do like astral projection, then like that's just a part of the story. So it's contextual, but I think you can make an argument either way. But if everything is realistic in the book, then no, then I would be out. Number 4, love triangles. Sure, yeah, I can be in for that. It can work. I think it's like many things that we go through, times where there's a lot of stories with this and then not many stories with this. I think that they can be done well. It can definitely be very, very tragic, especially if, someone really truly does love both people, as opposed to indecision on what to do. We've been having love triangles since like King Arthur, Lancelot, and Guinevere, so I don't think they're going anywhere. It's just popularity in terms of whether we get them or not. But I think that they can be done well. Number 5, cracked spines. It's your book, it's your choice. I don't feel super strongly one way or the other on this. Like when I get books that are secondhand, I'm actually usually pretty relieved if they're in really beat up condition, as long as they're still readable, because then there's no need to keep them in pristine condition. I repurpose, like I've chopped up books and cut through the entire spine, so I think I have to be in on that. Number 6, back to my small town. Out. I've only read a couple of stories with this trope, and I generally don't enjoy it. I found mostly there's a lot of gossip, and unresolved resentment, and if you're going to work through that, that's great. But I think it's often the gossip part that I find not interesting. So I'm out. I'm back to my small town. 7, monsters as our regular people. I don't know what the definition of monsters is for this. Like if it's people who do horrific things, then out. If it's supernatural, paranormal, aliens among us, yeah, I'm in on that. Yep. Absolutely. Treat everyone, with respect. So monsters, humans, everyone. Number 8, no paragraph breaks. Oh, out. Out. I plan my reading a lot, and I have a hard time. I like my paragraph break to be very much exactly here. At the top, this first spot on the top right-hand corner, that's where I want to stop reading, not anywhere else. So having no chapters or not many chapters is hard enough. Having no paragraph breaks is just mean. Like, I understand some books it doesn't lend itself to that and they have an experimental format, okay, but generally give the eyes some different places to go. So I am out. I wouldn't not read a book because of it, but it would make it much more challenging. Number 9, multi-generational sagas. To be determined. I think this is something that I would be in, but I don't feel like I've read enough of them to confidently say that. I definitely think it's an interesting thing, and it's something that I would like to explore more. 10, rereading. Yeah, do it. Enjoy it. I like it. I don't do it tons, but, usually, I don't know. Sometimes once a month, that's probably the most, but yep. So 11, artificial intelligence. I think we're at the stage where you can't be out on that. Like, you can decide not to read about that, but we're, like, that's kind of, like, real at this point, almost. I mean, like, I remember, like, first watched Terminator, didn't think so, but now, I don't, self-driving cars. I mean, it's not something I seek out in books, but it's not something I'm going to not read about. So I guess in. Number 12, drop caps. Ooh, that's tough. I don't think I've read anything in that other than maybe poetry. That's artistic license, and I support the choice, so in. 13, happy endings. Oh, it depends on the work. I can't. I gotta Switzerland that one. It's great if there's a happy ending, but not all stories have to be happy in the end. Sometimes there is a different message that the author is relaying, and that's fine, so I'm not choosing. Number 14, plot points that only converge at the end. I hate being the person that says it can work. It depends on how long the work is. If it's like 300 pages, fine. If it's like 1,000 pages, that's a lot to ask of the reader. But it's not, as I said, I guess it's not something I seek out. It's not something I avoid. So I am somewhere in the middle on that one. 15, detailed magical systems. Out. I am not a fan of this. Anytime people even just say the word magic system, I'm out. I feel like magic doesn't need to be explained, and I don't mean that in a sense that it should be confusing. I don't like magic systems. When you get into a system, I feel like you get more into science fiction. When you get into that level of explanation, I'm out. But it's actually been helpful for me to recognize that when people are describing fantasy, if people talk about the detailed magic system, I'm out. I feel like magic doesn't need that much explanation. I guess I think of more sort of, you make a spell, you call on the elements, it doesn't, I don't know, like it feels a bit more intuitive to me for some reason. 16, classic fantasy races. Sure, yeah, they're great. I don't have anything against them. And also like new and invented things, because I think fantasy can be anything. It's not just the classics. Fantasy can be on any world, any plane of existence, and any interpretation of what living is like. It doesn't have to be the same story or the same setting, but there's classic fantasy races, lots of great books with them. 17, unreliable narrators. I'm neither in nor out on this. I think it can be a very effective storytelling technique, but I feel like most of the ones I've read or heard about all have the same resolve. So I feel like it's leads you down a place that's going to be a big surprise, especially the first time, but not necessarily too much after that, unfortunately. 18, evil protagonists. I don't think I've ever read one, so I think I'm actually going to say out. I don't want to be in the mind or from the perspective of someone who is evil. 19, The Chosen One. I know it's been done a lot, but some of my favorites have been The Chosen One, but I don't necessarily seek out those stories anymore. But again, I wouldn't avoid one. I think it can be done well, so I'm going to say in. 20, When the Protagonist Dies. In. I think this can be done very well and very effectively. I know that it can be, people can get really mad, for sure. It can be a huge spoiler. But I don't think it should be off the table. If that's where the story is going to go, then that's where the story is going to go, and it can be an incredibly powerful story. But in the consideration of things like trigger warnings, it is really challenging to not know if that's going to happen, and of course people are going to be upset. Because it's an upsetting thing. But that doesn't mean it's something that should never be talked about, especially in fiction where you can explore it perhaps a bit more, differently or safely. Not explore it, so not, okay, that's getting into challenging territory. I'm not trying to encourage anything like that, of course. But if you're not even going to think about it in fiction, it's going to be really hard to deal with that kind of situation in reality. So, but to each their own. People read for different reasons. I know people only read for escapism or for pleasure reading. It's not necessarily something you're going to want to come across, but it can be done really well. And be very powerful. 21, really long chapters. Already know I'm out. I'm not a fan. I wouldn't necessarily not read a book because of it, but it's not my favorite, so I am out on that, although it's not a hard no. 12, French flaps, out. They are hard to hold. I just don't like them. 23, deckled edges. No, it's hard to turn the page. It's hard to find the next page. My fingers are you actually have to go to the top instead of the side, and I don't like it, and I don't like how it feels on my hand at all. I know it's special and stuff, and I think it signifies a first edition, or it can, or it used to. No. 20, 12 times 2, 24. Signed copies by the author. Depends. I have a couple, so with conditions, I have some that are very meaningful to me, but I'm not a collector, so it's not something I seek out. But if there's the opportunity, of course, and if you know someone personally, of course, but it's not, I don't collect signed editions. 25, dog-eared pages. Your book, your choice. Not your book, don't do it. That's just rude. So I guess I'm out because I don't do it myself. I always use a bookmark or sticky flags. But I don't have a problem with it, and if I get a secondhand book with a bunch of dog-eared pages, I just assume there's some good stuff on those pages. Number 26 is usually romance books. Number 26, chapter titles instead of numbers. It depends. There's some books I'm reading, actually it's right here, I'm reading the R. Shaw series, and they have some really funny chapter titles, but they do lead you where things are going to go. And I still very much remember reading a fantasy novel that very much had spoilery chapter titles, including one that said The Wedding was the chapter title, and you literally had not met. That there was no indication that there was any relationship between any of the characters that you had met so far. So it was a huge spoiler, and it wasn't an external wedding. So it wasn't just they were going to a wedding. So it might have been called The Ring, but I think it was called The Wedding. So I don't, to be honest, at this point, I don't, even if there are chapter titles, I generally skip over them because I'm so anti-spoiler, and I know that that's going way beyond the extra mile there, but it's the truth. I really, numbers are fine with me. If there's going to be chapter titles, I hope there's also numbers as well, because I do plan out my reading. So I like to know how many chapters I need to read a day. And if they're only titles, that makes that a bit challenging. So am I in or out on that? Neither. Sorry. I picked C several times here. I think that they can be fun, but I think I enjoy them most in middle grade, where you kind of know where things are going anyway, but I don't like them too much in adult fiction. Wow, I did not know that. I did not know that. So now I learned about that. So if you have not done the in or out tag, feel free to do it yourself. I will leave the questions down below, as well as read Becca's video and the original tag. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed those answers. I'd be curious to hear your responses. And yeah, that was actually pretty fun. And it didn't go too long for 26 questions, which is why I'm going to close things now. Thanks for watching.